alleged Williams Jr. produced an AK-style pistol and forced one of the victims to sign a release from the recording contract at gunpoint.
Pooh Shiesty and Gucci Mane in court? A snitching bombshell? And the internet acting like the whole 1017 empire just got hit with a plot twist nobody saw coming? Saab, this story is not just messy. Allegedly, it is the kind of hip-hop courtroom drama that makes everybody stop scrolling and say, wait, what did he just say? According to online discussions and reported court-related chatter, tensions around Pooh Shiesty and Gucci Mane have reached a boiling point, with fans now debating whether loyalty, business, street politics, and legal pressure all crashed into each other at the worst possible moment. One side is saying Gucci was simply caught in a serious legal situation as a victim. Another side is whispering that the paperwork, the statements, and the courtroom energy raised uncomfortable questions. But here is where it gets wild. This is not just about one alleged confrontation. This is about years of loyalty, prison time, label politics, money, trust, betrayal rumors, and a snitching debate that refuses to die. So what really happened? Did Pooh Shiesty finally snap? Or is the internet turning legal paperwork into a street trial? Now this is where the whole thing starts feeling less like a normal rap business disagreement and more like a courtroom episode nobody asked for. But everybody is secretly watching twice. Because when Pooh Shiesty's name gets connected to Gucci Mane, the internet does not hear contract issue. The internet hears betrayal, loyalty, street politics, label drama, federal pressure, and a whole comment section screaming, hold on, who said what? According to discussions online and reported legal chatter, the tension between Pooh Shiesty and Gucci Mane did not just appear out of nowhere. This was not one awkward meeting, one misunderstood conversation, or one bad day where everybody forgot how to act professional. No, this was allegedly years of pressure building under the surface. Money pressure, label pressure, prison pressure, loyalty pressure, and the biggest pressure of all, the kind of pressure that comes when people start asking whether somebody cooperated, whether somebody talked, or whether the internet is simply taking legal paperwork and turning it into a full-blown street courtroom. And let's be clear from the beginning. Nothing here should be treated as a final legal conclusion. These are allegations, reported details, online reactions, and public discussions surrounding an active situation. Everybody involved is presumed innocent unless proven otherwise. But that has not stopped the internet from doing what the internet does best, grabbing one line, one rumor, one court detail, and turning it into a 5-alarm hip-hop emergency. Pooh Shiesty came into the game with that rare kind of energy that makes people believe they are watching somebody become a superstar in real time. Memphis flow, cold delivery, street-certified image, viral records, and the kind of momentum labels dream about. Then Gucci Mane steps in, signs him to 1017, and suddenly the story looks like a perfect rap movie. The veteran trap legend gives the young Memphis star the platform. The young star gives the label fresh heat. Fans see it as a passing of the torch. Gucci becomes the mentor. Pooh becomes the chosen one. Everything looks clean from the outside. But in hip-hop, the outside picture and the inside business are almost never the same thing. Because behind the videos, the jewelry, the plaques, the features, and the celebration posts, there is always paperwork. There are percentages. There are advances. There are masters. There are expectations. There are promises people thought they heard and contracts people actually signed. And that is where things allegedly started getting complicated. According to public conversation around the situation, Pooh Shiesty may have felt the business side was not matching the loyalty side. Fans have been debating whether the relationship was still solid, whether the trust had cracked, or whether both sides were already moving like people who knew the partnership had an expiration date. Then prison enters the story, and that changes everything. When an artist goes away, the whole world keeps moving. The label keeps calculating. The industry keeps replacing. Fans keep asking when the comeback is happening, but behind closed doors, people are checking numbers. Who is profitable? Who is expensive? Who is still worth investing in? Who is carrying weight? Who is becoming a risk? And when Pooh Shiesty was away, his name still had value. His music still moved. His fans still showed up. His comeback still had hype. But hype and label math are two very different languages. So by the time his name started floating back into public conversation, the expectations were huge. Fans expected the return to be legendary. The streets expected loyalty to be rewarded. The industry expected money to be made. But allegedly, Pooh expected something too: respect, leverage, and maybe a better business situation than what he felt was waiting for him. And that is where the Gucci Mane connection becomes explosive. Because Gucci Mane is not just any label boss. This is Gucci, the man who built a whole universe of trap stars, survived his own legal storms, came back sharper, cleaner, and more business-minded than ever. He is respected, feared, joked about, studied, and blamed all at the same time. In one conversation, people call him a genius. In the next, they ask why so many 1017 stories seem to turn dark. That reputation matters because when something happens around Gucci's label, fans do not treat it like random paperwork. They treat it like another chapter in a long, cursed 1017 documentary. And Pooh Shiesty already had a public image that made the situation even louder. He was not viewed as a soft industry artist caught in some boring contract dispute. He was seen as somebody with a real street aura, real legal baggage, and real consequences around his name. So when whispers started spreading about a courtroom moment, a confrontation, and a snitching debate attached to Gucci Mane, the internet did not ease into the story. It jumped through the window. People started asking, was this really about a contract? Was it about loyalty? Was it about Gucci being named in paperwork? Was it about the streets reacting to what legal documents allegedly said? Or was this the internet taking a complicated federal situation and turning it into a morality play with heroes, villains, and 10,000 unlicensed lawyers in the comments? And that is the dangerous part. Because in real life, legal cases are slow, technical, and full of details most people never read properly. But online, everything becomes instant. A document drops, somebody highlights one sentence, a blogger adds dramatic music, and suddenly everybody is acting like they were sitting in the courtroom wearing a suit from Law and Order. One person says, Gucci told. Another person says, no, he was the victim. Another says, the feds already had evidence. Another says, street rules do not care. And just like that, the actual case gets buried under a mountain of opinions. But the reason this scandal hits so hard is because the emotional core is simple. Fans thought Pooh Shiesty and Gucci Mane were locked in. They thought this was loyalty. They thought Gucci stood by him when things got rough. They thought Pooh respected Gucci as a blueprint. So when the relationship allegedly turned into courtroom tension, the reaction felt personal. It was not just, oh, two rappers had a dispute. It was, wait, the mentor and the protege are now on opposite sides of a story this serious. That is why every detail feels bigger than it normally would. A court mention becomes a bombshell. A reported statement becomes a betrayal. A business disagreement becomes a street referendum. A legal filing becomes a viral trial. And somewhere in the middle of all that noise is the real question nobody can stop asking. Did loyalty break first, or did the business? And once that question hit the internet, the whole conversation stopped being about facts and started becoming about sides. Because one side looked at Gucci Mane and said, hold on, if he was named as a victim, why is everybody acting like he did something wrong? They argued that being caught in a serious legal situation does not automatically make somebody a snitch. According to that side, if law enforcement already had surveillance, records, witnesses, and other evidence, then the internet was basically trying to turn paperwork into street gossip. But the other side was not trying to hear any of that. To them, once a rapper's name appears in legal discussion connected to identifying people, the debate is already on fire. They do not care how technical the case is. They do not care how much evidence existed before. They only care about the optics. And in hip-hop, optics can damage a name faster than the actual truth can defend it. That is where the alleged courtroom energy became the real headline. Not because anybody outside that room has the full picture, but because fans started imagining the tension. Pooh Shiesty sitting there, knowing the world is watching. Gucci Mane's name floating through the case. Reporters, bloggers, fans, and reaction channels waiting for one facial expression, one quote, one pause, one rumor they could turn into a viral headline by dinner. And you already know how the internet works. Nobody waits for the full transcript. Nobody says, let's carefully review the legal context. No, they see one explosive phrase and start acting like they are the Supreme Court of trap music. Some online voices claimed Pooh was furious over how everything played out. Others suggested Gucci was simply protecting himself in a situation he never asked to be in. A few anonymous industry chatter pages even framed it like an emotional crash between loyalty and survival. One alleged insider-style comment floating around fan discussions said, "This was never just about money. This was about feeling abandoned when the cameras were off." Now again, that is not confirmed. That is the kind of online chatter people repeat because it sounds dramatic. But that is exactly why it spread. It gave fans a storyline. It gave them emotion. It gave them a villain depending on which side they already wanted to believe. Then came the money conversation. Because every time a rapper-label relationship falls apart, people immediately start asking about the deal. Was the artist happy? Was the label fair? Was there pressure to renegotiate? Was somebody trying to leave? Was another label circling? Was the comeback hype making the business more complicated? And in this case, those questions became gasoline. Fans started pointing out that Pooh Shiesty had major momentum before his legal troubles slowed everything down. They argued that his name still carried weight, his record still had street value, and his comeback could have been huge. So if there was allegedly tension around contract terms, people wanted to know whether Pooh felt trapped, undervalued, or blocked from a better opportunity. But others fired back and said, "Wait a minute. Gucci stood by him when plenty of labels would have moved on." They argued Gucci kept the brand alive, supported the music, and did not publicly abandon him when things got complicated. From that angle, Gucci was not the villain. He was the businessman who took the risk, carried the burden, and then allegedly got pulled into a nightmare when the relationship went left. And that is what makes the whole situation so messy. Both sides have a story that sounds believable to their audience. Pooh supporters see a young artist who may have felt squeezed by the system, frustrated by paperwork, and angry that loyalty did not feel equal both ways. Gucci supporters see a veteran who gave opportunities, took risks, and then allegedly became the target of a situation that went way beyond business. And the internet, of course, does not want nuance. The internet wants a cage match. So the comments turned into a digital war zone. Gucci gave him a career. Pooh made 1017 hot again. Business is business. Street rules are street rules. The feds already had the case. Paperwork still matters. He was a victim. Victim or not, the streets will judge. That last line is the one that keeps the drama alive. Because there are really two courts here, the legal court and the court of public opinion. The legal court looks at evidence, charges, witnesses, motions, and procedure. The public court looks at screenshots, vibes, loyalty codes, facial expressions, and who sounds guilty in a 40-second reaction clip. And honestly, the public court is louder. That is why the snitching bombshell became bigger than the actual paperwork for a lot of viewers. The word itself is toxic in hip-hop culture. Once it enters the conversation, it does not politely leave. It sticks to every headline. It follows every name. It turns every explanation into an excuse and every silence into suspicion. Gucci could say nothing, and people would call it weird. Gucci could deny it, and people would say he's defending himself too hard. Gucci could explain the legal side, and people would say he is lawyered up. That is the trap of public opinion. Once the internet decides there is smoke, it starts selling tickets to the fire. Meanwhile, Pooh Shiesty's image also takes a hit from the opposite direction. Because fans who are waiting for a clean comeback now have to process a much darker narrative. Instead of music, features, shows, and a fresh run, the conversation is about court, allegations, contract pressure, and whether one of rap's most promising returns got derailed before it fully started. And that part is almost painful to watch. Because Pooh had the kind of comeback setup artists pray for. He had built-in fan loyalty. He had curiosity. He had the mystery effect. He had people ready to press play just to hear what he sounded like after everything. In today's rap game, attention is money, and Pooh had attention waiting at the door. But attention can flip. One week, fans are saying, "Free him, we need new music." The next week, the same fans are saying, "Bro, what is going on?" That is how fast momentum turns into damage control. And once the narrative becomes bigger than the music, the artist is no longer controlling the story. The story is controlling the artist. That is where bloggers stepped in like they had been waiting outside with microphones already plugged in. Reaction channels started breaking down every angle. Some leaned into the betrayal narrative. Some defended Gucci. Some said Pooh was wrong if the allegations are true. Others said the streets would never accept certain paperwork details no matter how much evidence the government already had. Everybody had a take. Everybody had a thumbnail. Everybody had that same shocked face like they just discovered the moon was leased by 1017. And you know the funniest part? Half these people probably did not read the full legal documents. But they read 3 highlighted lines on Instagram, added thunder sound effects, and suddenly became federal case analysts. That is the comedy and tragedy of hip-hop internet culture. It turns serious legal situations into entertainment, then acts shocked when real people face real consequences. Still, underneath the jokes and the drama, there is a real warning here. When street reputation, label money, and federal pressure collide, nobody wins clean. The artist risks freedom. The label risks reputation. The victim label becomes controversial. The fan base splits. And the music, the thing that made everybody care in the first place, gets buried under chaos. By this point, the scandal was no longer just Pooh versus Gucci. It became a bigger conversation about the rap industry itself. How much loyalty is real when contracts are involved? How much support does a label owe an artist after legal trouble? How much responsibility does an artist have to handle business like business? And why does every serious dispute in hip-hop suddenly get filtered through street rules, even when federal court is involved? Those questions are uncomfortable because they do not have clean answers. A label can be loyal and still protect its money. An artist can feel wronged and still make bad choices. A victim can cooperate with basic legal procedure and still get dragged online by people who think culture matters more than context. And fans can claim they want the truth while rewarding the messiest version of every story. So when people say this situation exposed Gucci, or exposed Pooh, maybe the real exposure is bigger than both of them. Maybe it exposed how quickly loyalty turns into branding. Maybe it exposed how fast street politics can clash with federal reality. Maybe it exposed how the internet does not actually want facts first. It wants a villain first, then facts that fit later. And as the reactions kept growing, the pressure around both names only got heavier. Gucci's team, supporters, and fans had to push back against the snitching narrative before it hardened into permanent reputation damage. Pooh's side had to deal with the reality that every new headline made the legal road look colder, longer, and more dangerous. Because once federal allegations are attached to your name, the internet drama is only the loud part. The quiet part is the paperwork, the court dates, the legal bills, the prosecutors, the conditions, the possible consequences, the kind of stuff no comment section can meme away. And that is where part of the audience started to realize this was not just a viral rap scandal anymore. This was a situation where every word, every reaction, every post, and every public statement could matter. The jokes were flying, but the stakes were not funny. And the stakes were not funny because once the courtroom becomes the stage, every little detail starts moving like a trapdoor. One motion gets filed, and suddenly the blogs are acting like a verdict just dropped. One attorney makes a careful statement, and the internet translates it into, "Oh, somebody is scared." One person stays quiet, and now silence becomes suspicious. That is the dangerous part of this whole Pooh Shiesty and Gucci Mane situation. The facts may still be developing, the case may still be active, and everyone involved may still have legal rights, but the public narrative is already running at full speed with no brakes. According to the way fans are reacting online, the fallout is now bigger than the alleged incident itself. Pooh Shiesty's name is being pulled into every conversation about wasted potential, bad timing, and how one comeback can go from legendary to legally complicated almost overnight. People were expecting music, visuals, features, maybe a monster single that made everybody remember why he had the game in a chokehold. Instead, the timeline got flooded with courtroom talk, paperwork talk, snitching talk, and that same tired argument where everybody pretends they know federal law because they watched 3 YouTube breakdowns and read half a screenshot online. And Gucci Mane is not escaping clean either. Even if some people believe he was simply caught in the middle of something serious, the court of public opinion is not built on fairness. It is built on emotion, history, and whatever sounds the most dramatic in a headline. Gucci's defenders keep saying, he was named as a victim. Stop twisting it. His critics keep saying, the streets will judge what the streets judge. And in the middle, you have thousands of fans who do not even know what they believe yet, but they know one thing for sure, they want the next update immediately. That is why this scandal has such dangerous staying power. It has every ingredient the internet loves. A famous rapper, a legendary label boss, alleged betrayal, legal pressure, street politics, business tension, a snitching debate, A comeback story going left. And of course, a fan base ready to turn every crumb into a conspiracy buffet. It is like somebody threw 1017, Law and Order, and a Shade Room comment section into the same blender and hit maximum chaos. But beneath all the jokes, there is a serious possibility that this situation could reshape both reputations. For Pooh Shiesty, the biggest consequence is obvious. Any active federal case can threaten freedom, career momentum, and future business opportunities. Labels become cautious. Promoters become nervous. Brands disappear like they left their phone on airplane mode. Even supporters start speaking more carefully because nobody wants to attach themselves to a situation that could get worse with one new filing. For Gucci Mane, the risk is different. He may not be facing the same kind of legal danger in the public conversation, but reputation damage in hip-hop can be its own kind of sentence. The word snitching does not wait politely for context. It does not care about evidence. It does not ask whether a person was a victim, witness, bystander, or just named in paperwork. Once that word hits a rapper's name, people start replaying interviews, old lyrics, old beefs, old friendships, and old street stories like they are building a case on a corkboard in their bedroom. And that is where the fallout becomes messy. Because if Gucci responds too much, critics say he is over-explaining. If he says nothing, critics say silence speaks volumes. If his team pushes back, people call it PR. If his supporters defend him, people say they are protecting the brand. That is the no-win zone celebrities fall into when the internet wants drama more than clarity. Meanwhile, Pooh supporters are trying to hold on to the idea that this is not the end of his story. They say allegations are not convictions. They say legal cases can change. They say people should wait before burying someone's career. And honestly, that point matters. No matter how loud the internet gets, a person is not defined by rumors, reactions, or viral thumbnails. The legal process still matters. Evidence matters. Defense matters. Context matters. But the internet is not patient enough for context. The internet wants a clean villain, a shocking quote, and somebody to blame before the next lunch break. That is why this whole saga feels like a warning sign flashing over the rap industry. How many times have we seen young artists climb out of impossible situations, finally get the platform, finally get the attention, finally get the chance to change everything, and then get dragged back into chaos before the story can even breathe? How many times have we seen labels market street credibility until street reality walks through the door and turns the whole business into a courtroom exhibit? Because that is the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to say too loudly. The same image that sells records can also become the image prosecutors, critics, and rivals use against an artist later. The same loyalty talk that builds a fan base can become a trap when business gets ugly. The same family label energy that looks good online can collapse the second contracts, money, and legal survival enter the room. And if there are future hearings, future filings, or future statements, expect the tension to get even louder. Every new detail will be clipped, slowed down, zoomed in, and argued over like a championship fight. If Pooh says anything, people will dissect it. If Gucci says anything, people will remix it. If attorneys speak, fans will misquote them by sunrise. And if nothing happens for weeks, the bloggers will still find a way to title it New Shocking Silence Exposed. That is where we are now. Not at the end of the story, but at the part where everybody is waiting for the next door to open. Will the legal side reveal more? Will the public reaction cool down? Will Gucci manage to shut down the snitching talk once and for all? Will Pooh Shiesty's team find a way to shift the narrative back toward due process, music, and survival? Or is this one of those scandals that keeps growing because nobody involved can escape the shadow of what people think happened? And maybe that is the real tragedy here. A relationship that once looked like mentor and protege now looks, at least in the public imagination, like a broken alliance surrounded by lawyers, rumors, and accusations. A comeback that should have been about music is now being discussed like a legal thriller. A business dispute, if that is what started the tension, has turned into something much darker in the eyes of fans. So the biggest question is not just whether Pooh Shiesty went off, whether Gucci Mane got dragged into a snitching debate, or whether the internet has already picked its favorite side. The real question is whether hip-hop can ever separate business, loyalty, and street expectations before everything turns into disaster. Because when the money gets funny, the paperwork gets ugly, and the streets start watching the courtroom, nobody gets to control the story anymore. So now the question is simple. Is this really a story about betrayal, or is the internet turning a legal case into a street trial before all the facts are even out? Was Pooh Shiesty pushed into a corner by business pressure, or did frustration allegedly turn into the worst decision of his career? Was Gucci Mane simply caught in a serious situation as a victim, or will fans keep dragging his name through the snitching debate no matter what the legal context says? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this one is messy from every angle. And if more court details, reactions, or shocking updates come out, you already know we are breaking it all down right here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because in hip-hop, the truth does not always come out quietly, sometimes it explodes in court.